Hi everyone, it's Anne here again. What I've got here are some little clusters. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but whenever I've tried to make clusters in the past, I love them when I see other people's, but when I do it, they seem very flat to me, and I think I like the dimension. So I thought, how can I do this to give it a bit more dimension without having to use things like form squares or anything like that. Anyway, I was playing around the other day and I came up with these, and I actually like how they turned out. So I'd like to show you how I did them. But having said that, I'll show you how I did them and then tell you not to do them that way. It'll all become clear. First thing I used was a piece of music, which is the base that I used to put everything on. And I made up this little, don't know what to call, a widget. And all it is a piece of chipboard, well, it's actually two pieces of chipboard glued together so that it's nice and stiff. Now if you don't have any chipboard, use cereal box or whatever you've got, but you might have to put more layers to glue them together to achieve something that's stiff enough. And all it does, it helps you tear out a circle. If you're good at tearing out a circle just by hand, then do it that way. So I'm just going to lay this on where I want it, so it's about there. I don't want a lot of this white border. And I just tear around, hold it tight, just tear around the edge. Like that. And that gives me a kind of a rough circle. It's not perfect, but I don't want it perfect. It's got a bit more character if it's sort of raggy around the edges. I'll just do another one. You might have something around your house that's already kind of that shape and stiff. I was trying to think what I have. I've got coasters, but they're a bit too big. You might be able to find a lid off something, or something that's already circular, that's stiff enough to use just to tear around the edge. Okay, so now I've got a couple of circles to work with. I'm just going to ink around the edges of them. Oh, I think I like that side better. I'll use that side. Okay. Now for the first layer, I just used a little piece of kind of any old fabric. I've got some pieces here that are suitable. Probably just use something like this. And I'm just going to cut it approximately the same size, maybe a little bit bigger. It can be very rough because we're going to gather it up. Okay, now that I've got my piece of fabric, it actually might be a little bit big. Probably want it the same size as your circle. That's okay. I'm going to show you how I do it and then tell you not to do it that way. I'm going to use hot glue, and I've already got my glue gun on. It's got glue in it. And I've got a bowl of water here. And what I do is I just put a bit of hot glue sort of around the middle. I dip my finger and thumb on both hands in the water, put the fabric on, and then while it's hot I scrunch it up, and I end up with that. If you can see that. Now please don't do it this way if you are going to burn yourself, because the last thing I want is for you to hurt yourself. You can just use ordinary glue and do it exactly the same way, squish it up, but it's going to take a bit longer to dry. That's the only difference. I'm impatient, I want things like yesterday, so that's the reason I do them this way. Okay, so I've got a base. Now I'll bring in some bits of dyed doily that I've got in my stash, and I just want to pick a couple of really small pieces. Like that kind of size, yeah, that works. And what else have we got? Something that's a bit of a contrast. Here's a bit of blue, that might be good. Yeah, I like that. So again, using my hot glue, I'm just going to put a little bit on the base. Oops. And just to make sure it's all stuck down, you could use a piece of baked paper. I've got this silicone sheet. Just going to upend it on there and press it down from the other side. And it won't stick. And it's all nice and secure and flat now. Just have to remove those glue threads. Alright, last thing to do is to choose one of these little people. These are Tim Holtz dolls, and I always seem to end up with all the little ones left over. I tend to use the bigger ones first. So who do we want on there? I think the man is a bit big. Yeah. And quite like these two little girls. Yes, I like those. And just pop them on. Now because I scrumpled up the bottom layer, it doesn't all sit flat, so it's got dimension. I don't know if I can show that on the camera. Anyway, it's got more dimension than it would have if I just stuck one flat piece on top of another, and that's what I like about these. Alright, we'll do another one. I did some different ones. Instead of using the dolls, I used buttons. Put some here. Here's the ones I did with the buttons. But I did them exactly the same way. So I need a piece of fabric. What did I do with the fabric? Here. I just use this little piece here. Bring in my water. Okay. And now to put on the other little pieces. That's a small piece, but it's still too big. need the tiniest bits. Okay, that's alright. And maybe this piece of this. I always feel bad when I'm cutting up these because I think somebody has sat for hours making them and I'm just cutting them up. But then I remember that because I'm doing this, they're getting a second life and they'll live on in people's books and other work for more generations, which if you didn't do that, then they'd probably just end up at the tip. And some of these doilies are actually that my great-grandmother did, and I think she'd be quite pleased that I'm reusing them for other things. All right. So put those two bits down. Press them down, and this time we'll add a button. Now these are plastic buttons. They look like they're metal, but they're plastic. And I'm going to cut the shank off with some wire cutters. Oh, that came off easy. Usually have to press harder than that. And again, I'm going to attach it with a little bit of hot glue. All these things you can do with ordinary glue, but they're just going to take longer to dry. All right, there they are. I just love those. Yes, I'm very happy with those because I love the dimension. Alright, well, I hope you enjoy making some. Please don't burn your fingers and let me know how yours go. And I thank you very, very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time in my next video. Have fun. Bye for now.